Hello everybody, NitsuaGamer here, and I am here to talk about a new show that has come out recently called Knuckles. So yeah, this show is pretty much...
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jose, I am the Egg Paladin, and wait, NitsuaGamer?
Thanks for interrupting me, asshole. What are you doing here?
Well, I was just done watching the Knuckles show, and I decided, you know what, I want to have a little bit of fun, but then I see you here in my view, so what the hell are you doing here, bro?
Well, I was gonna talk about my thoughts on the Knuckles show. What are you doing here?
Oh, dude, I would say do the exact same thing. Talk about the Knuckles show from my point of view, express my thoughts, shit on the actors. Nah, I'm joking. But in all seriousness, I just want to have a little bit of fun and express my thoughts, so I guess we have that in common.
Okay, let's do a collab on it then.
Ah, fuck it, I got nothing else better to do. Let's do it.
Alright, so, yeah, Knuckles, the TV show, so, came out as of recently, and it's the spin-off that takes place between Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Not the video games, but the movies.
Spoiler alert, the Sonic movies are better than the games.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Okay, opinions aside, so, let's just go, and talk about a quick thoughts on what we thought of the first two Sonic movies. So, the first movie, in my opinion, was pretty good. It's probably like a 7 out of 10 for me. Like, I would say the lowest parts is the fact that, yeah, it's kind of one of those movies that has to mix, like, live action with CGI characters that you love and all that. And obviously, it's doing its own unique thing that's... for sure should fail, you know, something like Garfield or Hop or the Smurfs or whatever, where they mix like the characters with live action humans that you don't care about. But honestly, I think how they do it in the Sonic movie, well, not great, I think not only works really well, but stays true to the heart of who Sonic represents and who he is as a character. And I think their interpretation of it is not a bad one, honestly. And personally, I did enjoy the first movie overall, despite some flaws with it.
Same here, dude. I went with the first movie is actually pretty good, even though the OVA was better. But despite all of that, both Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 actually had some very good ways to actually express the characters. I like Sonic's character in Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Tom and Maddie were actually pretty good characters. Not to mention, both Tails and Knuckles' introduction in the second Sonic movie was a breath of fresh air. And not to mention, in Sonic 2, we even got the backstory between the owls and the echidnas. Like, that was an interesting take. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik was still hilarious and fantastic, and the action and cinematography was downright excellent.
Yeah, so the first one I thought was good. It was definitely a 7 out of 10 for me, whereas the second film was definitely a lot better, an 8 out of 10. And yeah, well, it still has the live action and Sonic mix and all that. It definitely has a lot more Sonic to it. It definitely feels a lot more like a Sonic movie, not just because it introduces Tails, Knuckles, and the Chaos Emerald, but it just felt a lot more like a Sonic movie than the first one did. And overall, the second film was a really solid, great film, and I really love the whole rivalry and eventual friendship that Sonic and Knuckles eventually formed throughout the movie, and it has a pretty good message to it that our ancestors did shitty things and all that, but we don't have to be just like our ancestors. We just follow our own path from this point forward.
That is true, and you gotta stick with that order. Otherwise, you're gonna be assholes for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, sure, I know some people complain about the wedding scene, but honestly, I still enjoyed the wedding scene, especially since it does introduce G.U.N, who becomes a huge plot point for Shadow's story that's going to be introduced in Sonic 3.
Oh, absolutely. I love G.U.N, especially Randall. He was a pretty chill dude. I like him.
Yeah, so, yeah, overall, we definitely liked both the first and second movie, with the second movie definitely being better. Obviously, as of now, Sonic 3 is currently in the making. I think they're done filming it. They're in post-production,
yep.
And apparently Keanu Reeves is going to be voicing Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
which honestly caught me up by surprise. Like, I thought it was a fan joke, but no, it's a reality. The fans knew what they thought in their heads.
Yeah, well, I could definitely see the voice with Keanu voicing Shadow, but anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So, Knuckles, right. The mini-series that is exclusive to Paramount Plus, takes place, obviously, just sometime after Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I mean, right down to they're still rebuilding the house after the damage that was caused in the second film. And,
that's true.
And yeah, so the Knuckles series is divided into 6 different episodes, ranging between 20 to 30 minutes long, and pretty much the entire series, in theory, should be entirely around Knuckles, but as some people have stated, it's also about Wade, why am I blanking out on his last name? His last name should be easy to say.
Wade Whipple.
Wade Whipple, right. So Wade Whipple, who, in the first film, you kind of didn't really think was going to be a side character. He was kind of just that cop character. And then in the second film, he had a little bit more in the story, even though you could argue that he didn't contribute much. So, obviously, there's kind of that, yeah, this may or may not work when they show that he's going to be pretty much the secondary main character in Knuckles, but as people have stated, Wade is kind of the main character, while Knuckles is kind of the secondary character in a way, and a lot of the character development is definitely around Wade, and from what I've seen from Sonic Twitter, pretty much the people that hated it definitely found that it needed a show that needed more focus on Knuckles and not the human characters. So essentially, if you didn't like Wade as a character, or couldn't open up to Wade as a character, you're probably not going to like the Knuckles show. Whereas if you open up to Wade as a character, you might find fun with this show. And for me, I didn't care about Wade in the first 2 films, but I think the show itself actually did a decent job of making me actually kind of like Wade. And I actually did like seeing him develop through this mini-series. I mean, it's nothing great, but I did find myself actually having fun with this series overall.
Oh, dude, same here, man. There was a lot of funny bits in the show that actually made me giggle and happy with joy. Well, yes, some people out there are gonna say, oh, it's focused on Wade. It's not focused on Knuckles. You want more Knuckles' backstory, bitch. You already got that in episode 4. What you mean? So, regardless of that, I still think that Wade does have some very good values, the way how Knuckles was supposed to teach him. I still feel like they should have been more balanced when it comes to giving screen time to both Knuckles and Wade. And while that is still there, I feel like they could have done at least a little bit better, but hey, I'm not complaining. And plus, Wade is the GOAT!
Yeah. Overall, I actually did like Wade as a character. As for the other characters, we'll probably get to that more into the spoiler sections. But yeah, personally, I did like the friendship and the companionship and the overall development between Wade and Knuckles, with Knuckles figuring out whether or not if this Earth home is really his home, and Wade finding his independence to be a warrior and be able to stand up for himself. You can say that he did some things in Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but honestly, aside from giving Sonic and Tails some shelter and having a brief moment with Stone, he didn't really do much in the second film, honestly. And in the first film, you would never have guessed that he would have been a side character.
Yeah, but now that's at the breath of fresh air. And it's not just Knuckles and Wade that's also getting the spotlight. We also got the introduction to 3 other characters who are the main villains. Of course, we got Agent Willoughby, who is this crazy British woman that does have a little bit of history with Knuckles that seems to know, funnily enough. But honestly, the other characters, Agent Mason, honestly, that black dude is freaking hilarious. Who, fun fact, is also being played by a guy, what was his name again? Kid something? It was actually the guy who actually played the songs for the Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 movie.
I actually didn't know that. I'll definitely have to look that up and make sure I edit that into the video, but...
God damn it, Nitsa, you lazy bastard!
I'm sorry, but my channel has been all about Persona over Sonic lately.
Oh my god, you've been sipping over Persona, then sipping over Legend of Zelda.
Hey, whatever's giving me more ad revenue, dude. But anyways, yeah, overall, the Knuckles series, it's definitely polarized among the Sonic fan base. As far as I've seen on Sonic Twitter, it's not to the point where Sonic fans have been at war with each other, but it's definitely gotten to a point where they're already beating on a dead horse with,
I mean, it's a Sonic fan, though. What'd you expect? They're always gonna argue over the smallest of details. Like me!
But yeah, essentially what I could take away from this is that if you like Wade as a character, you'll probably find this to be a fun show, but if you don't like Wade as a character, then you're probably not going to like the show. That's pretty much where I think the like and the dislike can even. I'm sure it's probably more than that, but we'll definitely talk about the episodes as we go along. So that's pretty much our non-spoiler opinion. So out of a 10 rating, what would you give this show?
Honestly, I would possibly give this, like, say, 7 out of 10. I mean, it's actually a pretty good show. Honestly, I still prefer Sonic Prime a little more. In case you haven't noticed, it's actually a Netflix cartoon. But despite all of that, Knuckles is a pretty good show. It's a good breath of fresh air. I like Knuckles' character. Wade is freaking adorable. There's a lot of funny, goofy moments I like. And like I said, the cinematography for the Sonic 2 movie is still intact with Knuckles, and I'm very glad they kept it that way. Paramount, you did the Sonic characters justice.
Yeah. For Knuckles overall, I will definitely admit, as I was watching the show, I was definitely mixing between above average to below average to average, and here's the thing, is that I actually watched the show twice. I watched it once on my own, and I actually watched it twice yesterday, actually, with my dad, just to see his reaction to it, and yeah, surprisingly, his opinion was actually kind of the same as mine. Essentially, if you like Wade, you'll like the show fine, but if you don't like Wade, then you're definitely not going to like the show. Overall, I think I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's definitely not as good as the movies, but in terms of whether the show is worth it or not, I'd say, yeah, it is worth it. I mean, is it something that you can skip out on? Probably, but if you want more of this universe, then I don't think this is a bad watch at all. It definitely has a lot of fun moments.
It's totally worth the watch. The action adventure is still there, and it also has a mix of slice of life into the mix. Alright. But despite all of that, should we get cooking straight into the episodes?
Alright, so this is your spoiler warning, guys. This is your spoiler warning. So if you don't want to know that Wade has a wedding on Hawaii and Knuckles has to fight Iblis or whatever, then this is your spoiler warning right now, okay?
Alright, so let's get on to it. So let's go on with each episode from 1 to 6. So quick thoughts. What are your thoughts on episode 1?
Alright, so episode 1 called The Warrior. So this is actually the only episode that is directed by the director that made that directed the first 2 movies, so Jeff Fowler. So Jeff Fowler is the director of the first 2 movies, and he only directed the first one, and it definitely shows. You can definitely see his direction within the first movie. Between showing the shenanigans that Knuckles is going through, the family bonding with Maddie, Sonic, and Tails, and yeah, I guess Tom doesn't exist because, well, getting, what's his name, the actor who plays Tom, with
James Marsden.
Yeah, James Marsden was probably too expensive of an actor to get him into the show, so he's not in the show at all. So,
God damn it, James Marsden, you could have been in this bitch.
But yeah, The Warrior, in my opinion, is probably the best episode out of the 6. It definitely shows his slice of life, living on planet Earth now, and how he's having a hard time of being able to adapt to Earth's ways compared to his ways, and how he was raised by the tribe, and of course his shenanigans ended up getting him grounded, and then, you know, he doesn't really see a purpose or really a home in this life, and that's when, I don't know how to pronounce the Echidna Elder's name. I don't think anyone does.
Pachekamek.
Pachacamac. You know what? Let's just call him Mac, okay? So Mac comes and tells Knuckles that he has to train an apprentice, and that apprentice would, of course, end up being Wade.
Yep. That's true. Also, I gotta say this right now. Hiring Christopher, I forgot his name.
Christopher
Lloyd.
Name
is Christopher Lloyd to voice Mac. To voice Mac was an excellent detail. I mean, they got the dude who played Dr. Emmett Brown in Back to the Future, Hacker from Cyber Chase, freaking Master Xehanort from Kingdom Hearts. Oh my god. Perfect, excellent choice.
Oh yeah. He definitely really did a great job, Christopher Lloyd. I mean, who doesn't love Christopher Lloyd? Eventually we see what Wade is up to. He's trying to train for the bowling tournament, and obviously he's good at it. It's just the one pin on the left side. It's always the left pin for whatever reason that just refuses to get knocked down. You have a shenanigan with him and his ex-friend, and this little scout girl ends up going with this guy, and yeah, it's a little weird once you get to the human side, but once you see Knuckles and Wade get together for the training and such, and then we get introduced to some what are presumably ex-gun agents, because they literally kick another gun soldier into the mushroom world, and
oh yeah,
and yeah, the villains are definitely a lot of fun, and I definitely really like the talk that Knuckles and Wade have, especially when we actually get to know a little bit more about Wade, because Wade, we really don't know much, if anything, about him from the first two movies. So it's nice to actually see some bit of character and something that we can actually not only sympathize with, but some people can probably relate to. I mean, a lot of us can probably relate to being just a unfit dork, honestly.
Yeah, I think that may be a good segment in the next episode.
Yeah, so Knuckles gets captured. So in my opinion, the first episode was definitely the best episode.
Honestly, in my opinion, I would have to go with the second episode, because this is where things get actually pretty funny and a little goofy, because this is where Wade is at its somewhat peak, because the thing is, he's trying to actually help Knuckles ever since both Agent Willoughby and Agent Mason try to capture Knuckles, in order to actually give them to the buyer, who's actually the overarching antagonist of the Knuckles show. And basically the thing is, in episode 2, this guy has like a weird fantasy where he tries to save Knuckles, and it's so hilariously weird and hilarious. I can't help but laugh at it.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it should be mentioned that Sonic and Tails and Maddie only appear in the first episode. But yeah, in the second episode,
they were sadly They were only appeared as special guests, nothing else.
Yeah. Well, in the second episode, don't ever say I wasn't there for you. So essentially, Wade has to go and rescue Knuckles. And what I really love about it is that it shows a fantasy of how he rescues Knuckles. And that's already hilarious enough. But what made me laugh so hard was seeing how it actually plays out. You would think, okay.
Yes.
You would think, okay, he's probably just going to go down the hallway. The gadgets are probably going to break apart or something. No. Literally every single gadget that he bought goes off all at once and ends up exploding his police car. And my God, I was having a laugh. That was probably the funniest scene in the whole show.
By far, dude. Like, that dude just freaking clenched his fists together and ruined everything. But despite that, he managed to actually get lucky, beat up Agent Mason, and actually managed to save Knuckles through the cage, which ended off with Knuckles using his glide to save Wade out of that mansion. Which, by the way, that place is actually called Ice Cap, believe it or not.
Yeah, level from Sonic Adventure 1.
Sonic the Hedgehog 3, actually.
Oh, no. What was it? I don't know. I'll correct it in editing. But anyways, but yeah, after Wade rescues Knuckles, and they bond over time with like music, talking about the past and all that. And honestly, that's the parts that I actually do like about the show, is when the characters actually talk about themselves and such. It's definitely one of the strong points that was in the first two films, and it definitely does hold up in the show between Knuckles and Wade. I actually do like their conversations and all that. Like, sure, Wade may not be the most interesting character, but just because I may not be interested in him doesn't mean you can't make me like him or understand him over time. You know, if you're going to introduce a character, then make us understand him. And honestly, I think they really did a great job in these first two episodes.
Yeah, I think we already repeated that stuff almost 3 times in a row, bro. All right, but okay, now that we actually got that away, now it's time for episode 3 and
the Shabbat dinner.
Oh God, this one I will have to say is probably my least favorite of the show so far.
All right, go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, so far in episode 3, we were introduced to Wade's family, his mother, and of course, his bloody sister, Wanda Whipple. Okay, let me get the positives first out of the way. I will admit, the first thing I actually like about it is how slice of life it is. That's pretty cool and all. And I really do like Knuckles trying to, you know, get in touch with Wade's family's Jewish customs, which, by the way, Wade's family is actually Jewish. So the fact they have an actual religion in a Sonic media is actually very rare, despite the demigods and massive amounts of extraterrestrials that were in the Sonic series. But despite all of that, while I admit that Knuckles and Wade's connection also gets a little stronger here, the one thing that kind of puts it down is, of course, the drama between Wade and his sister.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the lowest point of the show for sure.
Yes, the sister herself. This woman is the most aggravating character in the whole entire show by far. There will be more later down the road, but they're not worse as her. Like, she is so cynical, arrogant, toxic, and an absolutely infuriating brat to deal with. I highly doubt she's even working with the FBI, which she mentions it earlier on in the episodes.
Yeah,
and
the worst part is that she really doesn't improve at all throughout the entire show. Like maybe she warms up to her brother, and honestly, the only reason she quote unquote warms up to him is just so Wade could kick his father's ass. But that's later on in the episode. But yeah, Wanda was definitely the worst character of the show. Everyone, even the people who like the show, can agree Wanda was just unbearable. And my god, they released a clip where they showed the guy with the chains, and then she was given this cringy as hell dialogue. You look like you popped out of a Natty's video games. Where do I put the quarter? And the dialogue is just so bad, and it's like, oh my god, it's like, that's practically like the lowest point. And the fact that most people who haven't watched the show have seen that clip, they probably think that's the entire show.
Yeah, then again, it's the internet. They'll take anything at face value and just run with it like a bunch of idiots. But despite all of that, yeah, I will agree, she's like the worst character by far to begin with. No offense to the actor that played the character. I'm pretty sure she's
Eddie Patterson. Yeah, Eddie Patterson.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's an alright person. I think she does some good stuff, but regardless, her character was not written well. And whoever Paramount thought it was a good idea to even include her clearly did not develop her character well. She doesn't apologize, she doesn't do anything to improve. And the fact that I even remember seeing this in the Sonic Wikia, they said they have a neutral relationship. I'd be like, bitch, shut the fuck up. That is not neutral at all. And not to mention, she even stabs Wade in the arm. Yeah,
right in front of the mother, too. Yeah.
How do people even condone this character? This is so dumb.
Also, I gotta say, did they just make a C joke with the cardboard cutout of the muscular woman? What are the stains on her?
I don't know, but that can go in so many different implications, but it is just funny regardless.
Alright, the Shabbat dinner, I guess I should give my opinion on it.
Hold on, before you say that, there is one thing I want to mention. The joke. Remember earlier on when Wanda was scanning Knuckles and that metal detector was underneath his you-know-what?
Yeah.
Oh my god. The fact that they actually slipped that joke in a freaking kids show of all places is freaking hilarious.
Alright. This might be an underpopular opinion of mine. But the Shabbat dinner, okay, so the first episode, in my opinion, is the best episode. Second episode is the second best episode. The Shabbat dinner is honestly the third best episode for me, and I'll explain why. For one, anything that has to do with Wanda is awful, but the rest of the episode, in my opinion, I actually liked. And the reason why I liked it is because I actually do legit like the mother in this series. I actually do legit feel her pain of having to be alone and having her family essentially be this dysfunctional family that just doesn't get along because of a neglectful father and just a sister that is just freaking awful. And Wade's situation is understandable. He wants to be able to get away from that life and be able to do his own thing. The fact that he has to go back into that life and Knuckles has to see like all of this, like I actually really do like the mother. I actually really do admire not only her dedication to try to make this family work, but to see it just fall apart. I actually do legit feel bad for her, and I legit enjoy every moment that she was on screen. When Knuckles and her were having a chat, and Knuckles and her fighting the guys in the kitchen, that scene was freaking awesome.
Oh yes, this woman can fight, and I will agree with you, the mother is absolutely one of the best parts. Like, not only can she fight, but she's also very caring. I just wish that she could just try to, like, stop the kids, besides just using her words, like, try to move them apart for some reason, which I wish she could have done that. But despite all that, I do sympathize and understand with her situation. So, yeah, the mother is one of the good parts of the episode, and the fact that Knuckles warms up to her as part of their Jewish customs is also a massive treat.
Yeah. And I know some people are going to be sensitive, oh, why are you comparing something that's fictional as, like, the Echidna tribe going extinct to something that is real, like the Jewish people getting killed in the Holocaust and all that. And I'm like, well, in that kind of movie, both the realities kind of happen. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad comparison. Like, I know it's a sensitive thing to talk about, but I don't think it's necessarily that bad to compare it, especially since it's taking place in a fictional world. But
yeah,
I don't know. People's opinions on that. I think people are getting a little too sensitive about that.
Yeah, it's 2024. There are still sensitive bastards out there.
But yeah, in my opinion, this was definitely the third best episode for me. Pretty much anything that did not involve Wanda, I liked. I actually legit liked the mother. I actually legit like seeing like this dysfunctional family, why it's dysfunctional, and just seeing the heartwarming ending of the family coming together as the Shabbat candles dim was honestly quite beautiful.
Yeah. Also, I really do like how she mentioned, like, Krav Maga, which is, like, Israeli martial arts. Yeah, that one was pretty funny, I will admit. Alright, but despite all of that, let's go on to episode 4.
The Flames of Disaster.
Yes, and I'm gonna say this right now. This episode, in my honest opinion, is the funniest one by far, in my opinion. Shall I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so basically this starts off with Wade actually getting dragged out by Jack, you know, the bounty hunter who was in episode 1, mind you. And because he was actually, there was a bounty on his head, which we actually forgot to mention. Wade's head has a bounty. So he was actually traveling along with Susie's family, who's named Susie, the girl in the first episode. And we actually get in touch where Wade actually meets Mac, you know, Petra Comic, and we actually learn about Knuckles' backstory through a rock opera, and the way how they do it was so hilarious. Like, they made Wade have a Knuckles costume. We later got to a rock opera fighting against the actual owls from the second movie. We see Jack singing the rock opera, and the brief part of Knuckles' father fighting alongside Knuckles, and then we briefly see him as a puppet. This was just a massive...
A puppet, and arguably kind of looks like Ken Panders?
Oh god, let's not bring that up, shall we? Let's not bring that up.
Yeah, okay, anyway.
But yeah, I really do like it. Like, it was so freaking hilarious out of nowhere. And another thing is that I like how Wade actually just leaves in the middle of the song because he tries to punch the cage, where every time it gets shot and touching the bars, the computer just keeps saying, do not touch the bars. Do not touch the bars. Seriously, do not touch bars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here, rather when they got back, and this is something that I just noticed, that my friend actually noticed this, and I did not notice this in episode 4. So when the rock opera began, and we saw like a monster where Wade as Knuckles was appearing in front of it, that monster, believe it or not, is actually Iblis.
Yep, based off of Iblis from Sonic 06, which didn't happen, and considering the dream didn't happen, it's kind of fitting.
Yeah, but the fact that it is part of Knuckles' backstory, like a freaking echidna, not some green-haired dildo from 06, hell no. It was Knuckles that beat up the Flames of Disaster in his own world. And I was like, wow, I did not notice this until my second viewing.
Really? I've noticed it first watch.
I didn't know who that monster was. One of my friends said it was Iblis, but I did not know. It was way too much to be Iblis. But then after my friend said it, I was surprised, genuinely, because I had not noticed this. And after looking at it, man, I'm a dumbass. So yeah. So right at that moment, wait, do you want to take a swing on this?
Yeah, I'll take a swing on this. So episode 4, I'll definitely say the 4th episode definitely started off hilarious when he wakes up, you have the good morning song, and the house is just falling apart, and when he opens the fridge and the fridge door falls apart, I was having a good laugh. It was a good start.
Yeah.
And then when Wade gets captured, and Knuckles is like, no, he needs to learn to rescue himself. Knuckles only appears at the beginning of the episode, has a brief phone call in the middle, and appears at the end. This is practically the episode that a lot of haters seem to describe as Knuckles is barely in it and it's all Wade's show. This episode is practically that criticism, except people now think that's the entire show, but Flames of Disaster is definitely that, where it lacks Knuckles and it's definitely Wade's character. And in my opinion, when I first watched it, this was my least favorite episode. In fact, I actually disliked this episode at first.
Really?
But when I watched it again with my dad a second viewing, I did grow to like it a little bit, but I still think it's a weak episode, but probably the second worst episode in my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree that Knuckles not helping Wade was kind of a bit of a dickish thing to do. I understand it's him trying to become a warrior, but still, it could have been much more better. Also, I'm not sure, I'm just thinking about this right now, like, how on earth was Wade able to travel, like, to meet Mac in the bowling alley? Like, through his own essence or something? I thought it was only specifically for Knuckles.
Who knows? I don't know. Maybe he really is a ghost, but who knows? But yeah,
but
the whole rock opera, the whole low budget rock opera. When I first saw it, I was cringing. I thought it was just creatively bad, and watching it again, it's creatively cringy, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad. I use bad loosely because essentially, it's an entire waste of time that's obviously supposed to develop Wade's character and all that. But the whole opera scene itself was really creatively done, considering the whole thing is done low budget and all that. And when it got to the point where Wade finally finds his strength, he punches out the cage and he has to face up against Jack.
Yep.
The whole fight was honestly, in my opinion, pretty bad. The dialogue was just so bad.
Yeah, it does feel a little awkward, and yeah, I do want to. So, will you say this episode is actually mid in your opinion?
It was bad when I first watched it. Watching it again, I would say it's probably between a 4 or a 5. I can't say it was a good episode, but I definitely had a lot more fun with it watching it a second time.
Oh yeah, it's good to know. I do want to say, how the hell did Wade even jump up that high to bring out the cage? Because I'm just thinking to myself, that is not physically possible. But then again, you know, he is with Pechacomic and everything else.
Je ne sais pas. I have no idea. But yeah, honestly, Jack was probably just a pretty bad villain. I mean, out of all the villains, Jack was definitely the worst villain. It was so cringy with his defeat. I mean, yeah, Wade develops, he becomes a lot stronger, he goes on the motorcycle, heads home, and honestly, the episode, in my opinion, was definitely weak. At first, it was my least favorite episode. I legit disliked it at first, but after a second viewing, I would say it's the second worst episode. It is just mid for me, honestly. With the rock opera scene probably being the biggest redeeming quality in quotation marks, because it's cringy, but it's creatively cringy.
Well, I still think it's the funniest one, in my honest opinion. And I will agree there are some things that are still weird, especially when it comes to Wade saying, I challenge you to a duel. Yeah. So right. Anyways, should we head to episode 5?
Yep. Reno Baby.
Alright. I'm gonna let you take a crack on this one.
Alright, so in this episode, Knuckles and the Whipples, they all go to Reno, they go to a casino, and then this is where we get, when we confront the father that left Wade's family, and I'll admit probably the most funniest part is probably Knuckles giving him advice of what to say to his father over the phone. That was probably the funniest part of the episode.
Oh yeah, totally. Fun fact: his name is actually Pete Whipple.
Yeah, but, Pete. Yeah.
Another thing that also kind of got me a little shrugged off was the mention of alcohol, because Wanda mentioned like margaritas and then she made it into a Wandarita. I'm just like, bro, are they actually putting alcohol in a freaking Sonic media? Like, I get the casinos and everything else, Casino Night Zone and everything, but the alcoholism? Oh boy.
Yeah, but yeah, the Reno Baby is essentially mostly about Wade pretty much reconciling with Pistol Pete, only for Pistol Pete to betray the entire family later on, and in my opinion, this was definitely the worst episode of the show, in my opinion. And the reason why is because it was honestly boring, honestly. It was interesting at first viewing, but when I was doing the second viewing, it was honestly worse a second viewing. It was honestly boring, and again, with the criticism of it's mostly Wade's show and not Knuckles, this is definitely the example of when it's at its worst, honestly, because Knuckles is barely involved in it until, the beginning and the end. It's mostly Wade. It's mostly just Wade and Pistol Pete talking, and it's just not interesting, honestly. In my opinion, this is probably the one episode that I will definitely say is a 4 out of 10. It's probably the one that I will definitely say is below average.
Honestly, I would say that it's more average than that, because I admit, as a sucker of slice of life shows and whatnot, I do think that it's an alright episode. Sure, the only thing that does hold it back was the lack of Knuckles getting barely any screen time, and I won't lie, when Wade's father gave that heartwarming speech to Wade, I actually did fell for it, because I have my own standards when it comes to my own real life situations. I'm not gonna get too personal with that one, but despite all of that, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was somewhat surprised that he's gonna betray them, but not that much. So
I was not surprised one bit. I knew he was bullshitting throughout the entire thing. I knew he was bullshitting, and I definitely saw the betrayal coming.
Yeah, honestly, I was having like mixed opinions. I would say I slightly like it a little bit more than dislike it, but yeah, I will agree with you that it does have a little bit of fault issues with that one.
But yeah, essentially, The Flames of Disaster, Episode 4, and Reno Baby, in my opinion, are the lowest episodes. The Flames of Disaster, I thought was the worst, but after a second viewing, I actually found myself liking it, mostly for the rock opera portion, whereas the Reno Baby, aside from Knuckles giving advice to Wade over the phone, I just didn't find the episode that fun. And honestly, I find Episode 5 to be the only one that was below average for me, a 4 out of 10, honestly.
Alright, fair enough. Anyway, so on to the final episode. Episode 6, what happens in Reno stays in Reno.
Oh boy.
Alright.
So Wade betrays Knuckles. How dare he?
Oh man, how dare you betray the furry Knuckles? You were in the fandom and now you lost it! Alright.
No, but Wade did think ahead, and Knuckles was hearing on the earpiece, and Knuckles came in prepared.
Yeah, that's a pretty smart move, which shows how Wade was able to grow up at least as a character, which by the way, I forgot to mention this like earlier on, we actually came in close contact with the buyer, as well as like Agent Willoughby, that actually has some history when it comes to Gun and Dr. Robotnik. We never got a chance to talk about that, eh?
Oh yeah, that actually happened in episode 5. I'll say that's probably the other best thing that was from episode 5. So pretty much the whole phone conversation between Knuckles and Wade talking to his father, and of course the whole thing with Agent Willoughby talking to the buyer, and her stress with Gun. That was also a really well done scene. In fact, some of her dialogue I actually really enjoyed. Like in the second one, where she's like, "You know nothing about me, but by the end of it, you will." And then in this one, where she's like, "So trust me, if you don't think I'm frustrated with Gun, I am," or however she says it. I don't know what the quote is exactly, but the way she says it honestly was really well done. And in fact, I actually did enjoy her as a villain.
That's right. The same with Agent Mason. I really do like he's not just in it for Gun. He's just some regular dude, you know, who just wants to get paid and everything else. And the fact he's also pretty funny, especially when it comes to when he gets a call from his mother in episode 2, was fucking hilarious. But despite all of that, my only small gripe with their backstory is that while they do mention it, I wish they could have showed it, because that would have made it more interesting and impactful to see what they did like in person. Because you know the phrase, show, don't tell?
Yeah, show, don't tell, yeah.
Yeah, they could have at least showed it with us, because we would have been more interested. Showing is much better than just like telling us, because you don't know if the third movie is going to contradict that or anything else. But it's Paramount, I highly doubt they would do that. Anyway, so yeah, back to episode 6. So right after when Knuckles actually finally managed to, both Knuckles and Wade outsmarted Agent Mason and Agent Willoughby, that's when the fight actually broke out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fight actually breaks out. It was pretty cool and everything else, but then right after that, Wade began to say like both his mother and his sister. Well, scratch that. He actually saved his mother. The sister didn't do shit. Didn't let him save him.
Oh yeah, the sister. God damn it! Like this is the one moment where she should be thankful. She could redeem herself by showing the appreciation, but instead they had to make her the strong woman that has to get out of it. And I was like, okay, you know what, Wade, just fuck her, let her like dislocate her finger, and when she actually did, I was like, oh god, they actually did it. You know what? She deserves it.
Yeah, I wish she could have been much more punishable, to be honest with you.
And then we got Wade. So after the agents defeat, when they get sucked into the portals and maybe killed, it's not really stated what happens to their fate. But Wade does the bowling tournament to go up against his
father,
his awful father, and it's definitely very satisfying just seeing him stand up to his father and win in the end. I mean, even though it wasn't a brawl, it was still satisfying seeing him being able to beat up his father.
Yeah, I also like the two co-hosts in the background that were, commentating throughout the entirety of the bowling tournament. Those two were pretty cool.
I'm kind of mixed on those, but they had some funny lines. And meanwhile, don't forget, this show is not about Wade. It's also about this little red furry dude named Knuckles. He's fighting outside.
Yes. Oh, yes, the red dildo himself. And then,
fighting the buyer.
We later finally gained contact with Knuckles and the buyer, actually meeting each other for the first time. Which, mind you, the buyer also has some obsessed with Knuckles the Echidna to the point where some of his weapons are based off of his fur quills, I'm assuming. But yeah, it was actually a pretty interesting detail. I wish I could have got more in depth with it, but whatever. Despite all of that, there was a fight between both Knuckles as well as the buyer, and then Wade tries to help him with the gloves and whatnot, which is a nice touch.
Using the gloves and the bullet balls and then giving the speech. And the speech is practically kind of similar to James Marsden's character Tom talking to Dr. Robotnik in the first film, where the punchline is Sonic is my friend, and the punchline in this one is Knuckles has found a home, and it's definitely a repeat of the climax of the first film, but I still think it was well done.
Yeah, I think it was somewhat much more better than the first movie, because at least Wade is able to kick some ass. And near the end, when Knuckles finally stands up, he unlocks the flames of disaster.
Yeah, and then he totally annihilates him, and then Wade causes destruction of property just so Knuckles can defeat the heck out of the buyer.
Hey, he's a cop. I think it's necessary. I think it's justified.
Yeah. And then having the mother punch the father at the end was definitely satisfying. And even Wanda gets a good kick on the father too. But Wanda as a whole just did not redeem herself throughout this entire darn show.
Nah, fuck that bitch. I think to her character is like a parody of those dumb, strong female archetypes where they say they're better than every other man, but in the end they're just stupid idiots. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, maybe that was the point, was just to show that she was a stupid idiot, but by doing so, you just made her the worst character, and God, I just hope that the actress is not facing any harassment, because you know how fan bases are. They like to harass the actors for playing bad characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All I can say is right now is don't bring her in the Sonic 3 movie.
Yeah. And if you are going to bring her in the Sonic 3 movie, don't make her what she was in this one.
Or at least make Shadow kill her.
Yeah.
But despite all of that, we finally get to the climax where Knuckles and Wade were gonna have a slow high five, and that was it. And the episode ends, but then we got in a post-credits scene where we actually have Knuckles as well as Wade having to listen to their main theme song of The Warrior.
Yep.
Yeah, for the seventh time in a row. But despite all of that, it was actually pretty good. So I say this show was pretty solid.
Yeah, I definitely had fun with the show overall. It definitely had its low points. If I had to rate the episodes from worst to best, the worst episode, in my opinion, was Red-O Baby, episode 5. Second worst would be Flames of Disaster. Third worst would probably be What Happens in Red-O Stays at Red-O. It definitely had a stronger ending, that's for sure, compared to the rest of the episode. The Shabbat Dinner, it's probably not a popular opinion, but I actually did enjoy the Shabbat Dinner minus the Wanda parts. And then the second episode was my second favorite episode, and the first episode was my most favorite episode. And I guess having Jeff Fowler direct the first episode definitely helped.
Yeah, absolutely. If I was to make that list, I would say episode 3 is honestly my least favorite. Red-O Baby, I think I'd put it right there. 4th would have to be the 6th episode. The third one, I think I'm gonna go with the 4th episode, Flames of Disaster, because that one's funny. Second favorite will be The Warrior, the first episode, and number 1, the second episode.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, most people who even hate the show would usually say that the first 2 episodes are usually the more okay ones or the better ones, and generally I agree with that. The first 2 episodes were definitely good. The rest of the episodes were either mid, had good moments, or isn't worth it. Episode 5, in my opinion, yeah, it's necessary to show him meeting up with his father, and it's necessary to show what's going to happen in episode 6, but episode 5, in my opinion, was definitely the worst. So pretty much the low points for me was episode 4 and 5. But aside from that, I still had a lot of fun with the show. Like, yeah, it has cringy moments, it has bad moments, and there is too much focus on Wade and not Knuckles. But overall, I still had a lot of fun with the show, and it did actually make me like Wade as a character that I really didn't care much about in the first 2 films.
Yeah, I wonder if he'll get a major role in the Sonic 3 movie with Knuckles. That would be a fantastic highlight.
I mean, if he does, I hope fans will definitely warm up to him more, especially the ones that didn't like Knuckles.
Yeah, like for example, if you have a third movie like with Sonic and Tom, Maddie and Tails, and Wade and Knuckles, bitch, I'm all for that shit. I'll totally take that. As long as we see some more badass moments with Shadow and Keanu Reeves does a good job, then hey, I'm all for it. Yeah. I know I keep praising the movies is better than the Sonic games, but honestly, I just love what they're doing with the characters and everything else. They do this shit justice. If Paramount ever does a Sonic the Hedgehog movie video game, I hope they make it good. Find the right video game developer to make this good. I would totally pay money to see that.
Alright, so we're heading close to our 50-minute mark within this video. So overall, I actually did like the show, or mostly liked it. That I did dislike aspects of it. Like, it did feel mid at first, but after a second viewing, I could definitely say it's definitely a 6 out of 10. And I would definitely say I would recommend the show if you like the Sonic movies. Is it better than the Sonic movies? No. Is this movie necessary to understand what's going to happen in Sonic 3? Likely not at all, but it was still a fun time. And it was a good 3 hours of my life.
Absolutely. It's an underrated gem. We'll just say it that.
Yeah. Does it deserve the hate that it got? Well, it definitely deserves criticisms for sure, but whatever your opinion is valid. Sure, the opinion of the Sonic fanbase is only valid if you have the same opinion, but doesn't matter what your opinion is. If you love the show, that's valid. If you hate the show, that's valid. If it's mid, that's also valid. Your opinion is your opinion, and my opinion, it's a fun show, and while I can't say it's great, I did have a good time with it.
Absolutely. Anyone who says otherwise and saying their opinion is not valid are douchebags.
Yeah, and anyone that is attacking the actress that plays Wanda, you're absolute douchebags, and your opinion is definitely not valid.
Totally.
Definitely the same type of people that would hate on the voice actress that played Abby from The Last of Us Part 2, or Eugene from Walking Dead. But anyways, but yeah, overall, I did have fun with the show. It's sad that not a lot of people got into it, but I actually do find that some people actually did find fun with the show. I guess if your expectations are set too high, or you don't like Wade as a character, you're definitely not going to like the show. But if you're in it for the fun, and you're open to Wade as a character, you're definitely going to like the show. And even though Knuckles is arguably second main character compared to Wade, Knuckles still has his great portions in it, and anytime he's on screen, the show is great.
Yeah, in my honest opinion, I would say that I would prefer the other higher Sonic shows up more, because I would put this in like top 4 of my favorite Sonic the Hedgehog shows, because I would prefer like say Sonic X, Prime, or even Boom a little higher than that. But despite that, I still think it's worth the watch. I totally recommend it. Paladin's word.
Alright, so yeah, that's our review on Knuckles, the TV series, exclusive to Paramount Plus. So if you wanted an excuse to buy a monthly subscription for Paramount Plus, I'd say Knuckles is a good pastime. And if you want to use up that remaining month, I don't know, watch South Park or watch the first 2 Sonic movies or something.
Or even watch the Transformers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But hey, regardless of that, and if you don't want to pay up money for Paramount Plus, there's always a 1-week free trial.
Oh yeah, there's that too. But yeah, Knuckles, I'm definitely glad I watched it. Will I watch it again? Probably not as much as the movies, but I did have a fun time with the TV show. And I definitely hope that some of you who are skeptical about it definitely do give it a chance. Definitely watch it. Your opinion is definitely going to be a lot more solid if you watch it than just take someone's word for it.
Alright. So with that being said, we thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. This is NitsuaGamer. I am the Egg Paladin and NitsuaGamer. Any last words?
What's a quote that they said in the show that could be counted as a last word?
God damn it, I don't know.
Okay, maybe the show is not as memorable as we thought. Never mind, this show is not great. Don't watch it. Save your money and just stick with the movies.
Alright. Anyways, we appreciate you guys for watching it. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. Have a nice day, ladies and gentlemen.
Alright. Now get the fuck out of my studio.